we are going to be looking at a scenario where the UK reforms the British Empire. Now, throughout this video, the UK is going to be represented by the colour red. The Allies are going to be represented by the colour dark red. Just need to get that up for a second. And if they puppet a state, then they'll be this pinky colour, right? So the first thing that the British Empire would do is launch an invasion of Ireland to get back the island of Ireland. So they begin to push through Northern Ireland, where they face a little bit of lashback, but then they push down the coast, capture Dublin, and they capture the rest of Ireland. Now, looking at the peace deal, they fully annex Ireland and take back the British Isles all for themselves. The next thing they're going to do is invade Iceland. Now, I know Iceland is very mountainy and cold, but we're just going to ignore that because I want to ignore that. Not me. The British Empire lands in with their navy and captures the south and east part of Iceland, where the rest of them completely surrenders. Full annexation in the peace deal, and now they're looking big. The last thing they're going to do in Europe is they're going to go to war with Denmark. Now, Denmark's relatively strong country, probably the strongest country they've fought yet, but it's not going to be any competition. They land in Denmark, fully taking the area, eventually taking Copenhagen. Looking at the peace treaty, once again, we have full annexation, and now the UK is pretty much occupying the entire Nordic Sea. Now, the UK is going to move over back to Central America, where they're going to invade a bunch of countries in one, which include Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize. They make a naval landing in Belize, quickly capturing the nation. They do the same with Nicaragua, however, it takes a bit longer, and they manage to come down to El Salvador and occupy the entire nation. Eventually, they get the rest of Nicaragua, and Guatemala just surrenders. Again, they fully annex a whole group of nations over in Central America. Now they're going to set their eyes over to Africa and invade Mauritania to war with them. They make a naval landing and quickly capture the coast, and there's not really loads of Mauritania left. I think their capital's on the coast, and they surrender. Well, this is the first time that the UK didn't fully annex a nation, and it was with Mauritania. They just needed to take the coast before they declare war on a bunch of other countries on the coast. Now, these countries would definitely put up a bit of fight, but the UK is probably one of the strongest countries in the world, and easily take over as they capture pretty much the whole coast, taking a bunch of countries with them. They continue to push down the coast into Liberia and Sierra Leone, and as soon as they reach the Ivory Coast, by then every other country has just been completely taken over, or has either been taken over or surrendered. Now, the Ivory Coast gets their entire coast captured, and they surrender completely. And again, they have fully annexed a group of nations, and for now they are done in Africa. Right now they want to expand into the Low Countries and declare war on Belgium and Netherlands. Now, these are probably the strongest countries they've declared war on yet, so it's going to be kind of hard, as Netherlands, I know they have one of the stronger militaries in Europe, and Belgium has an okay military, but it's still going to be relatively easily. They make a landing in Belgium as well as Netherlands, taking the entire coast, and then from there, it's not really super difficult. And yeah, looking at the peace deal, they fully annex Belgium and Netherlands, and now they have occupation there we go, over pretty much the entire Nordic Sea. But to complete that, they go to war with the final Nordic nations, Norway and Sweden. Now, Norway's very rocky, and Sweden is Sweden, so they make a landing in Norway and can't push up really any further than that, or they get the mountains. So they push down, take the entire coast, and I think eventually Oslo, begin a push into Sweden again, taking they can't take the entire coast, it's huge, but they take a good amount of the coast as well as the capital, Stockholm, and eventually both countries surrender. Right, the UK has taken a good chunk of the important parts of Norway, as well as the western little area of Sweden, and now have control over this entire region over here. Now they need to settle an old dispute that's kind of died down, but it's still an old dispute, and they declare war on France. Now France is strong, but we are going to be buffing the UK for this video, so it's easier and more entertaining. So yeah, they make a landing in Normandy and cross over to Brittany, meeting up with Belgium. The troops stationed in Belgium and Netherlands make a push down, and they encircle Paris and eventually capture it and continue to push. They encircle another good portion of the troops, which falls quickly, and then they continue to push a bit more, capturing the western coast, and they surrender. Now they take a good portion of the coast of France, and now they are probably the strongest country in the world by far. Or no, actually they might not be. I think the US is probably still the biggest country in the world, and they need to do a little bit more work before they're quite there again for the 10 trillionth time. So they have the best navy in the world and begin to go across the globe, or just thousands of miles away, and they invade 3 countries at once, and these include Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE. They make a landing in Qatar, quickly capturing the nation, make a landing in Kuwait, doing the same, and take Dubai, and then eventually the UAE surrenders. Looking at the peace deal, they fully annex all 3 nations, and they want to join them all up, so go to war with Saudi Arabia. Also joins in on no one's side, but against Saudi Arabia. So Iran makes a small little naval landing here, and troops from the British Empire push in from each of their stationary points into Saudi Arabia, taking the eastern coast, as well as the part of Oman that's bordering Saudi Arabia, which cuts them off, and they eventually surrender. They begin to do the same with Yemen when they're stopped and meet with Saudi Arabian troops on the border. They continue to push down, completely cutting them off from any people left in Oman. They push down and almost completely cut off Yemen until they eventually do. And then they take more of Yemen, and then they eventually surrender. And with them, Oman and Yemen surrendering, so does Saudi. They fully annex Oman and Yemen and occupy a good eastern part of Saudi Arabia. Iran becomes an ally and takes a little part of Saudi Arabia towards the east. And one of the final things that the British Empire will do now is declare war on Iraq, Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. And they go to war with Iran on their side. The British troops push up into Iraq, meeting up with Iranian troops who have made their own offensive. After a little while of back and forth fighting, Syria falls into civil war, which the rebels completely take over the entire country, and as it's quite unstable, the troops from both Iran and the UK take good advantage of this and push up, practically occupying the entire nation until the rebels and the government surrender. And as Syria and Jordan and Lebanon are all being smart, they also all surrender before they can get declared war on. Iran fully annexes all of Iraq, as the UK annexes all of Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. The last thing that the British Empire is going to do is retake some of their former lands over in Asia. Bangladesh and Bhutan. Now, these are all very strong countries. India, Pakistan, top 10 strongest in the world. And I'm not saying this is going to be this is going to be easy to invade, but the UK is buffed and does already have one of the strongest militaries in the world. I think, India's is currently stronger than them, but this is the British Empire restored their glory and they are buffed. So, yeah. They make it. Oh yeah, and also Iran isn't going to be helping for this war, just if you were wondering. The British Empire makes a push into Pakistan, and that comes up until they eventually encircle a big amount of troops, and they fall, and with them troops, so does the entire nation. Right, now the strongest country here is India, and India makes good progress over here, fully liberating all of Kashmir. They continue to push into Pakistan until all of the British troops focus over here, completely pushing back India's counteroffensive, and making a push from here over to the other side of India where they border China, and completely taking over Kashmir. Now, India doesn't give up. They have the highest population in the world at the moment, and one of the strongest militaries in the world. Although this is not going to be easy for the UK, they're also probably going to win in this situation. So they continue to push up the border, and they eventually meet with their other group over in Kashmir until they push from one group and push over towards India and continue until India says, please stop, we need our coast and stuff like that. So they surrender to stop any further damages to the country. Along with them, so does Sri Lanka, and they begin to push into Bangladesh, which has one of the highest population densities on the earth. But yeah, it goes relatively smoothly, and Bhutan is very mountainous, so they surrender, even though they knew they couldn't really get invaded properly. Peace treaty. They fully annex all of Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Bhutan, as well as. This is the end of the British Empire video. If you want to take a look, that's what it looks like. And if you want to see more videos like this, like, subscribe, and watch more. So, bye.